is a great thing. Especially when you pause and think about the infinite variety of forms that life has taken, not only on this planet, but throughout the universe. Have you ever thought about it? All the millions of insects, the millions of bugs, flies, fishes, plant life, and animals, so forth and so on. The number is a staggering number. We cannot even conceive of that. And out of this infinite variety of forms that life has taken, only a few billions have taken the form of a human being. It is a tremendous thing. What does it mean to be a human being? What is the value that we have in this birth that the mystics speak so much about? Have we not all noticed, and irrespective of our traditions that we've come from, whether they're Christian or Muslim or Jewish or whatever, that in all of these great traditions, they have all unequivocally and with no exception spoke about the tremendous status of a human being. Why is that? Why is that? Why are human beings repeatedly throughout history of spirituality been spoken of as being the highest thing in creation? Why is that? Have you ever thought about it?
They say because we're the only ones with a mind.
Yes. One of the things is that we have a mind. Higher mind. Right? That it is only in this human body, in this form of life, that the vehicle that life is moving through is equipped with a mind. A mind that enables us to be self-reflective. When we look down the scale of life, the mystics and the masters tell us that there's some 8,400,000 different forms that life has taken just on this planet alone. And out of these 8,400,000 different forms that life has taken on this planet, you see, just a handful were fortunate enough to get this precious human form and the mind that goes with it. And you can imagine the life of a being that doesn't have a mind. Life form that don't have a mind. Look how their life would be. What are some of the other values that goes with having a human body, besides having a mind? Yes, Russell.
Another thing when they say man is made in the image of God, what qualities that man have that makes him a manifestation of God?
Yes,
He made in the image.
Yes, it said that not only is it said that in fact you come to the heart of the thing. One of the values of the human body is that in the human body we find a reflection of God itself. That God is, and all that God is defined as being, inherent in this body. And what therefore are the qualities? If we're made in the image of God, then our first understanding has to be, what is the nature of God? What are the qualities of God? What are God's characteristics that are inherent in the human body, in the human being? What are the characteristics of God? Love. Yeah. God is love. Right? So there's love inside of this. It's reflected. We have the capacity to love. Now that is an immense thing. That is an immense thing. Out of all these 8,400,000 forms down here, we have the capacity to love. Animals, insects move strictly out of instinct. Strictly out of instinct. Is that right? There is no mind, there is no loving one. Not consciously. We are the only form of life that has the conscious ability to experience love. And we can all imagine what life without love is like. So yes, love is one of the characteristics that we have been told God has. What are some of the other characteristics of God? Yes, ma'am.
Omniscience.
Omniscience, right? The capacity to know. The unlimited capacity to know. Now imagine, all of these other forms that life has taken does not have the capacity to know. does not even have the possibility of obtaining wisdom. It is a tremendous opportunity. Now, we will not exhaust all of them, but we want to start getting some ideas here about the value of this precious human birth that we all have. Because that's the most important thing. If you don't have a precious human birth, you could not strive to obtain any of the things you just talked about. Valerie, without your precious human birth, the question of becoming happy and peaceful and joyful would not even arise. You could not even have had that ambition, let alone the experience thereof. You see? Without this precious human body out, you would never be able, you wouldn't have any ancestors to speak of and to be like, to imitate. You would be busy trying to imitate your lion ancestors or something of that nature. You see my point? What are some of the other characteristics of God? Quickly, Pam has given us one, and let's just complete the trinity of characteristics.
Service. Service.
Service? What do you okay, explain that to me. What do you mean by that? Service. Expand for me, Lex.
Well, I guess to be a miracle, to do for others, to help others.
To do. The power to do. We call that omnipotence. One of the characteristics of God is that God has the power to do anything, to bring anything into being. Right? And as human beings, we inherit in that quality of God. Not quantity of the same stuff. We don't have the same quantity of omniscience or the same quantity of omnipotence, you see, but we have a quality. So the difference is quantitative, not qualitative. What is the last characteristic, final characteristic that throughout all literature we say God possesses? Omnipresence, right? That God is everywhere present. That God is the underlying ground in which everything exists. There can be no place you can go where there is not God there already. It is really interesting, this particular thing about God. It says that we all, by definition, inherit in the oneness of God. Already you are in the oneness of God. It is not possible to be out of the state of oneness with God. And this is a key point that has to be deeply understood. That which you are searching for, you are already in it. It is almost like a fish searching for water in an ocean. Isn't it? Think about it. Is it ever possible, has it ever been possible to exist outside of the ground of God? Is that possible? Is it possible?
I don't think so.
Think about it. Because on this issue you have to be clear. If God is omnipresent, which means located everywhere, then wherever there is existence, by definition, that existence must be in God, by definition. So the question of our inherent oneness with God is not an issue. We are always and already in a state of oneness with God. The problem, of course, is that we have lost our awareness of it. And that becomes the whole aim and objective of any spiritual path, is to restore one's awareness of one's already fundamental oneness. And what makes the human birth so precious is that it is in this form only that one can attain that awareness of one's fundamental oneness with God. And this is what makes it so good. That quality that we attribute to God, that love, joy, peace, bliss, these are the kind of terms that we use to describe God. You are already in peace. You are already inherently existent in joy. You are already in God and all that that entails. The problem, of course, is that we are not aware of it. And because we are unaware of it, we do not have the experience of bliss. Is that clear? But I want you to really look at that, reflect on that. You see, don't accept it, simply as a statement of truth. I want you to examine that. Is it possible at all that you, in actuality, can exist outside of God? Can anybody find any way to justify a separate existence? Then this feeling of being separate from God is an illusion, isn't it? It is an optical illusion that occurs in consciousness. It is a form of ignorance. The mystics have called this form of ignorance egotism. The ego creates this. This ego is what creates this experience of being separate from God, which is never the case. And out of that illusion of the ego, we suffer. And we miss the
Jimmy Palmer, please contact the courtesy desk, please. Jimmy Palmer.
that our human birth enables us to attain. So far, so good. I mean, I don't want to get off to a wrong start here, but I want you to understand that there is no other form of life available whereby you can actually attain the awareness of your happiness, except in this way. And I want you to know that this is a very rare form, and you need to understand that you have spent billions of lives in the lower forms. Billions of your lifetimes have been spent as an ant. In fact, the mystics say that if you just stacked up the bodies that you've had as an ant on top of each other, it will reach the height of Mount Everest. Billions of lives you have spent as an ant. Billions of lives you have spent this planet. Billions of lives you have spent this animals. And it's only now, after so many billions and billions of lives, and as a result of the great merit and virtue that you have accumulated throughout these lives, that you now have this precious human earth, in which now you can remember your oneness with God. That's what it means. Remember means what? Essentially, to remember. To remember God means to become part of God, to remember it in awareness. And only in this human body is this possible. Hence this family. Because we have all of the equipment, as Les pointed out. We have a mind, we have an intellect, we have a rational faculty, we have all of the sensory systems. We are loaded with all of the necessary equipment for the attainment of enlightenment. When we say enlightenment simply means a coming into awareness of one's fundamental oneness with God. And in the attainment of that awareness, all misery disappears. All suffering disappears. All pain disappears. All ignorance disappears. Right? So we have to start from the outset with a clear understanding of that. Because if we do not understand that, then there's every possibility that we will waste this human birth. We will take it for granted. You see? And no one knows how long it will be before we again arrive at this tremendous opportunity. So, the first thing that we want to focus in on then is the value of our human existence. It's a great opportunity. It is a great opportunity. With that said, if it is such a, if this human body, this human birth, this human form is the only form in which we can have an awareness of our oneness with God, then what becomes the purpose then of human life? What becomes the purpose and meaning of your human birth?
To merge back.
To regain awareness, right? And then we have to look and see, to what extent are we involved in that process? To the extent that we're not involved in the effort to regain our awareness of our oneness with God, to that extent we're simply wasting this human life. In fact, the mystic talks about the different levels of human birth. And that's interesting, isn't it? Right? Yes. They've gone deep into that. And we therefore have to look at some of this. We have what they call an inferior human existence. The inferior human existence is defined as that human existence that is just lost in the pursuit of the pleasures of the body, sensual indulgences. That's the person, after innumerable eons of transmigrating up the scale of life, finally arrives in this human body. But in this human body, it simply, because of the momentum of its tendencies that it brought with it from its lower form, simply wastes this human body in sensual indulgences. This is a human existence that is characterized by eat, drink, and be merry. And all